Tubers, Tibets, crazy people. Welcome back to my little channel. This video is kind of a comparison video between American women and Filipino women. And one of the major drivers that I think that a lot of American men have become disenfranchised with that whole dynamic in America. Years ago, I made a quip one time on a live stream that kind of caught on off the top of my head. Somebody asked me, what's the difference between the two? And I said, well, American women are feminists and Filipino women are feminine. And that's kind of a broad statement, but it actually still holds true, I think, to this day. And I got to thinking about it, and I started thinking about how American women are raised. And they are raised really not unsimilar to the way that Filipino women and men are raised by their families. American women are taught at an early age by their loving father and mother who want the best for them, to get a good education, have a career, be successful at your career, and then gain your independence. And once that's happened, then it's probably a good idea to start thinking about, seeking a mate and settling down, because the financial part is sort of underway. Again, you're independent. Something should happen. You still got your career to fall back on should you decide to leave it. And out here in the Philippines, there's no difference. If possible, even though there's a lot less financial ability here, but when possible, the parents are genuinely interested in their children being able to become educated and to get a career, get a nice job, and the only thing lacking is it's not so that they can be independent. It's so that they can be part of the collective of the family. And I was quizzing May about this, my girlfriend, and because I was a little confused as to how to word it, and I was a little confused in my head about the dynamics of the women working out here. And so I asked her, I said, you know what? Your sister, Georgia Lynn, went to college and has a nice job. And she works at Cebuana. And her husband is the same. He went to college and has a nice job at a collective. And in America, that would be associated with a credit union, if you will. So they're both kind of in banking, if you will. And I asked May, I says, if Georgia Lynn had a choice right now, would she prefer to stay home or would she prefer to work? And immediately, May kind of took me back and put me on my heels. And she said, oh, she'd want to work. And I was taken aback by that because I figured she was going to say, oh, no, she'd rather stay home, just be a housewife. So I said, that's interesting. I guess I was wrong. And she says, well, why are you asking? And I said, well, why is she so interested in having a career and working? Because she works like 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. Every time I see her, she was at a party that was up the street the other day. All she did was lay on the couch. She was so exhausted. And she said, she says, well, she works like that to help her husband. And that took a minute for it to sink in and me understand. And I said, whoa, wait a minute. What do you mean help her husband? She goes, well, her husband works really hard too. And her husband is building a small, modest house for the family because they have a child. And he's trying to get that completed and get it done. And so she's doing everything she can to help him. And I said, okay, let me modify my question then, May. What if her husband was making the equivalent of his salary and Georgia Lynn's salary. And so her salary wasn't necessary to achieve that goal. Would she still work? He said, oh, no way. She doesn't want to work. She doesn't want to get ahead. She doesn't want to move up in the company or be, some sort of mucky muck. She just wants to stay home and take care of the kids. That would be her dream. I'm not sure that statement would hold water in America. I think that in the culture here is family. I also asked May, I said, well, do the women work more or do the men work more and go to school more? And she says, both. And I said, well, who's expected to help the family, the parents? Because that's really a big deal out here. And she said, both. They don't work necessarily so they can go out and buy brand new TVs and refrigerators and live the life of Riley. They work because it's part of the collective to help the elderly, to help the family, and share the wealth. I think it's easy for us to agree here together, if we're Americans, that that's just not the mindset in America. The mindset in America, at least in my life, was to become independent. What's the word? Become independently wealthy. And I think that applies to men and to women. Out here, the culture is designed for harmony and peace and a happy home that they fill with laughter and children. And they don't want any dissension or arguments. They really are just all about, not everybody, nothing's absolute, but I'll use May as an example. She's like, I just want you to be happy. I'm happy when you're happy because it makes me feel good to know that if the house is clean and I look nice, that you're happy. And that is not unique to May. That is really across the boards. I've had an opportunity to meet with a bunch of new guys this week since I've been back. And I've met with guys, obviously, for the years that I've lived here. And I can tell you, I can look you in the blues and tell you with almost 100% certainty, all of the men that I've talked to have just reveled, if you will, in the fact that there is so little dissension in the household. There's so little turmoil or pushback or competition or, I did this, so you need to do that. I always felt in America when I was married, to be honest with you, I'm not ex-wife bashing. I think this just goes across the board. I think that my ex-wife was raised to be independent by her family and to make her own way and to be her own woman. And I think that gets carried into the marriages and into the relationships. And so when I was married and when I was just a guy dating even, I honestly didn't know where I stood and what the boundaries were and what the limits were. And I was pretty much confused. And I see that across the board with other guys in America. Over here, the confusion pretty much dissipates because men here are fully aware that their role is to be the guy and that the woman loves to say this phrase to them. If you ask a woman in the Philippines, what would you like to do tonight? Her standard reply are 3 words, up to you. Compared to a guy coming home in America who's just set his briefcase down and his wife turns to him and says, well, we're going to be at the Weber's at 7 o'clock tonight and you're going to need to change that shirt. Oh, and don't forget, don't bring up the topic about yada yada because that's going to upset Shirley. Shirley's going to be there. So, in other words, this guy just comes home from work, Me. Sets down the briefcase, and before anybody says hello, is giving his marching orders on what he's going to do. So that creates this weird dynamic, and there's almost over time, there's a fear of the woman, of the man, and the man is constantly kind of confused about his level of masculinity. It just sort of seems to dissipate over time. It's so hard to put into words this feeling and emotion that I know so many guys feel. One analogy that I made when I first got over here was when I was the first couple of days, I I was actually taken aback because I forgot that boy dogs have balls. I see all these dogs walking around. I go, it's pretty easy to tell the boys from the girls here. Where in America, if I saw it, unless a dog rolled over, I didn't know what it was because they've all been cut. And so I got a feeling that there's some level of that's carried over into the American male. To some level, he's been cut. And another thing that I've noticed that I get such a kick out of is over here, when men are talking, the women just respect it as locker room boy talk. I mean, they sat right next door to me, like next door to me, but right next seat next to me. And I'm talking to maybe a friend that's single that just went on a date, and he's telling me the sordid details of what went on, and it goes into the locker room stuff. May doesn't even look up from her phone. I mean, I'm just saying things, and he's saying things, and maybe there's 3 or 4 other couples there, and the guys are all guffing it up, and we're talking about, you know, this guy and his date, or dates that we've had, or women that we've met in the past, and it doesn't faze them one iota. I mean, they're just totally cool with the fact that that's over with, and they're hanging out with us, and everything's copacetic. But I can remember if I was trying to have a conversation like that with someone back home, maybe one of my single friends, and I wanted to find out the sordid details of it, I couldn't just sit there next to my wife and start asking that. I would be like, she's not here, is she? You don't see her. Well, hurry up. Tell me what's going on. I think she's coming. I'd be terrified that she was going to hear me talking about this topic because it's going to get, one of these. What was that all about? The other dealio here is how women simply embrace beauty. I mean, beauty pageants are big out here. And they're proud of their beauty. Where in America, the women almost look at it as they're being exploited, or it's just for male gratification, or this or that or the other, when I think the women are missing out on one of the best parts of their life, which is embracing their feminine qualities and their beauty, and not being exploited, simply to be admired. What's wrong with being good looking? And out here, I never seen, I shouldn't say never, but I've rarely seen a woman going shopping with a pair of sweatpants and an old t-shirt and her house slippers. It just doesn't happen. But when I was in the States, man, I must have seen 4 or 5 women that fit that description. And as I was checking out of Albertsons one day, I just noticed how disinterested and kind of slovenly the woman was that checked me out. And she was a tad rude and Karenish, if you will, and disrespectful to me to some level, not huge, but I had made a mistake at the register, and she was very, very quick to point out what mistake I had made and how I had missed this sign that I should have read, coming out, and I thought, well, why don't you just quit worrying about it and remember that I'm the customer and it's your job to ring it up. So why don't you just go ahead and ring that up, babe, and quit telling me what I did wrong. That's what you're here for, right? Check me out. And I didn't go there. I just, okay. No, I don't want a sack. I don't want to pay 10 cents for your plastic bag. I'll just carry it out. And here, everybody that talks to you that works in that position of checking you out of a market or a store always says, good morning, how are you, sir? Did you find everything okay? Would that be all? Here you go. Of course, it takes them 10 times longer because nothing here really goes that quick. But you get the gist of it. So the takeaway for me when I got back was that American women are not born feminist, and it's really not a woman's movement that's created all of this. I think it's more of a fatherly and motherly parent movement that has decided out of love that they think that they need to teach their daughters and sons equally to get the education, nothing wrong with that, get the career, nothing wrong with that, and then take that ball and run with it alone. And I think that as opposed to it being the family unit, May always sent her money to her parents. The kids will get the career, they will get to some level, they will get the salary to some level, and still, while their parents are alive, they will stay small and give money to the parents. America has been brainwashed, and I am a part of that. I'm not a victim of it, but I'm a volunteer of it, of buying into the nonsense of materialism and having more is best, and he with the most toys wins, and all these other bumper stickers that have been thrown at me for 50 years, and you too, and believing that, the bigger TV and the nicer car and the biggest house, and now you need a jacuzzi, and bop, 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 bop. And again, it's this individualism. I'm going to get mine, I'm going to get mine, I'm going to get mine, and I'm going to be independent. And what you end up being by being so independent of others is alone. And then when you try to take that dynamic and mix it in with another human being, it just creates, I think, a level of competitiveness between men and women. I can remember women, well, I won't go into a bunch of stories. The video's gone on long enough. I prefer it out here because it's like the 1950s. Women not only embrace the role of being a woman, but they embrace the role of being a housewife and a mom. That's their choice. They want to continue the family dynamic and lineage and love, and they want it to grow and I'm a perfect example of it. I've got 3 kids. They've all gone off independently in 3 different directions. People in America seem to get together at Christmas and Thanksgiving if they can make the flight. Because why? Well, the career took them to another state, or took them to another location or another country. They're chasing that dollar. There's nothing wrong with money. It's a beautiful thing to have. But at what price do you pay to have it over love, companionship, and most of all, community? All right, kids. I'll chat with you in another video next time. Bye.